friends, my name is Dael Kingsmill. Remember when I did a video of ideas that you could steal from video games and put them into your D&D campaign? I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you're new here, and that's okay. That's okay. I'll link it at the end of the video. It's fun. I think you'll like it. Anyway, we're doing that again. Why? You want to know why? Well, because the original idea came to me while I was playing Animal Crossing, of all things, and I then proceeded to get so excited by the concept of the video that I completely forgot to include the actual Animal Crossing idea. So here we are, take two. We'll get it right this time, okay? First of all, I'm a big believer in the value of Dark Soulsian decipherable patterns and JRPG-style multi-stage boss fights. This isn't even my final form! I need to do it better. This isn't even my final form. This isn't even my final form! Is that a good anime impression? I hope so. We've touched on this before, particularly in the dragon video. With the dragon fight example, a dragon's breath weapon is, I think, the coolest thing about it. Rolling randomly for recharge isn't like a bad mechanic, but it does risk you only being able to use the dragon's coolest thing once or twice during an epic combat. Whereas if you create a decipherable pattern, you kind of get to have your cake and eat it too. Like, sure, the breath weapon will go off every other round or every third round or whatever. That's way stronger, I get it, but the players will also see it coming and be able to prepare for it by hiding, splitting up, taking cover. At the end of its turn, you see the rising glow of the beast's immense internal heat emanating through the skin of its neck. What do you do? Multi-stage combats work hand in hand with decipherable patterns. Combat can drag if you're not careful, especially big climactic boss fights. One way to counter this is to shake up the status quo, i.e., split the fight into distinct phases. Mythic Odysseys of Theros kind of had a go at multi-stage combats, and they are pretty cool. Basically, if a mythic creature is dropped to 0 hit points, they regain all their hit points and an extra set of new legendary actions, which it's neat, but is maybe a little bit more hit point sluggy than I'd necessarily aim for. Your mileage may vary. Also worth checking out is the Angry GM's two-headed, two-tailed bifurcated snake. It's not quite the same as what we're talking about here, but it has some good ideas that do touch on a lot of the same stuff. Anyway, the thing I like about multi-stage combat, like we get in video games, is that the adversary's behavior changes. They fly into a rage and start thrashing about, or they take on a more defensive posture. They levitate into the air and start blasting you with lasers. I don't know. You could have any number of triggers that kick off the change, but half hit points is just a really easy one that I use as a go-to. With our dragon example, maybe once a blow is dealt that reduces the dragon to half hit points, the dragon will tunnel focus. That'd be scary. Instead of spreading out its attacks, it'll just go after the PC who did the damage over and over again because they insulted its pride. It changes the status quo and it tells you something about the bad guy. For important landmark combat encounters, definitely consider setting up discernible patterns of behavior, and then after a specific trigger, have that pattern change. I think it can make those fights both more tactical, with the players planning their turns around those patterns, and also more dynamic, forcing the players to think on their feet just as they think they've identified the best exploit. Here's one I've apparently named in my script, A Room of One's Own. I've always been strangely charmed by Skyrim's house building mechanics. Apart from the main structure, you can add wings to your home. The catch is there's only room for 3 wings, and you have to choose between 3 options for each. So if you build a library in the East Wing, for example, you can't also build an armory. You have to make your choice. Those distinctions are a little bit more arbitrary than I'd ideally like, but I'm very taken by the concept of simple customization choices. Dragon Age Inquisition has something sort of similar with Skyhold customization, but the point is limited space, lots of tempting options of what to use that space for. Think of it as like a bare bones version of, what's it called? The book. Oh no, Matt will be so disappointed in me. Strongholds and followers! So your party have been gifted a plot of land and the resources to build a base by the Thane or whoever. The basics are all assumed. You get bedrooms, you get a kitchen, you get a lavatory, but the player characters then get to choose together what to do with the wing extension, the basement, the grounds, and the tower. Those 4 sound like enough to me. The grounds could be used for stables, an archery range, a garden, amongst other things, each with their own little benefits. I like to think of of it as being loosely associated with proficiencies. So a garden might give bonuses to herbalism-based stuff, like making potions or poisons. Maybe with an archery range, someone trained in using a bow can give another party member temporary bonuses to ranged attacks. Nifty little boosts that also reflect the way that downtime was spent. But if you decide to make the garden, you can't make the archery range. And some add-ons might be exclusive to one area, while others might have alternatives. Like, you can't build a stable anywhere but the grounds. But if you missed out on a full garden by putting the stables in the grounds, you can still use the wing extension to build a greenhouse. Does that make sense? If you don't use the wing extension for a bar, maybe you can build a speakeasy in the basement. That'd be cool. I'm honestly hesitant to make a comprehensive list of what would be available because there's just a lot of cool ideas, you know? Is the tower a watchtower? Is it an observatory? An aviary for messenger birds? What little bonuses could each of those give? Maybe you could tailor things specifically, like bespoke add-ons as options. Maybe instead of an alchemist's lab or an enchanter's tower, you know that the wizard character in your party is a necromancer, so you offer them a morgue as a basement option, just for them. I know I'm leaving this one without a whole lot of example mechanics, but for me it's more about the broader concept. Offer them lots of options, but limited slots, and let them become really attached to the home base that they build by getting them to make choices that make this place their own, make it feel like theirs. Character bonds! XCOM 2 has a bonding mechanic where certain squad mates will get along better than others, and the more time they spend together, the stronger their bond becomes. You can unlock special abilities for those bonded soldiers to use only between the two of them, and only if they're both present. There's one charge shared between them, but either of them can use it. So either Joe or Bobby can use it as long as both Joe and Bobby are present, but if Joe uses it, Bobby can't. Does that make sense? Do you get it? If player characters dedicate time to developing their relationships with other party members, this is a really great fit for a tabletop RPG. Two thoughts I had for implementation were either starting with fiasco-style relationships, which is something I like to do. So, our characters are ride or die siblings. Our characters are veterans from the same war. Our characters were always competing for valedictorian at magic school. It's ways that the characters know each other as part of character creation. So starting with fiasco-style relationships and then letting those bonded pairs choose a bond bonus or even a rivalry bonus. That's kind of like a Dragon Age 2 thing, right? Like the idea of building a relationship, whether it is a positive or a negative relationship, either one furthers the narrative. So you unlock a cool ability that reflects that relationship either way. The other thought was that you could prepare a bunch of specific narrative triggers that unlock a new bond or rivalry bonus, and maybe you keep those to yourself so your players don't even know it's going to come. Things like staying up on watch together during a long rest and having a deep and meaningful conversation, or saving another character's life. On the rivalry end of the spectrum, maybe a new unlock could trigger when PvP breaks out between the party, or when a character does something that flies in the face of another character's core ideals. I will never not advocate for the incorporation of ideals, bonds, and flaws into game mechanics. The actual unlockable abilities I've jotted down, and jotted down does feel like the right word, they include, on the bonded end, teamwork, which is lifted straight from XCOM. It's pretty much a one-to-one fit. Once per long rest, you can forego an action on your turn to give your bond an additional action on their turn. Simple. Remember me. Pretty close to XCOM's Stand By Me ability. Once per long rest, when you end your turn within 5 feet of your bond, you can end the charmed effect on them. This one, you might need to take an action. I haven't thought about it that deeply, but it reflects that sort of cinematic moment of snapping out of this mental haze because you recognize someone that you love. Don't touch them! Once per long rest, when your bond takes damage from a weapon attack or an unarmed strike, you can use your reaction to move up to half your speed towards the creature who dealt the damage and make an attack against them. On the rivalry end, my ideas were not letting you out of my sight. This one's for all those sort of paladins and warlocks with fraught relationships. Once per long rest, when your rival is more than 30 feet away from you and moves, you can use your reaction to move half your speed towards them. Anything you can do, I can do better.
I can do anything better than you.
Oh, you can.
Yes, I can.
When you see your rival score a critical hit on an attack roll, you gain advantage on your next attack roll before the end of your next turn. Only I get to kill you. Once per long rest, when you end a turn within 5 feet of your unconscious rival, they regain 1 hit point and are conscious. Ooh, that's pretty strong. That might need a little tweaking. But you can see there how, you know, you can have a rivalry style relationship, a fraught relationship with someone. But the fact that you have even that negative bond, you can get cool abilities that reflect that. And finally, Animal Crossing. I'm sorry I disrespected you by forgetting you last time, Tom Nook. I'm sorry, I hope this makes it right. I went back and checked my notes on it from way back when, and they say achievement milestones like gathering Nook miles. I think game achievements in general kind of fits this idea as well, what I assume I was talking about at least. The idea is that the DM quietly tracks in the background certain things, like players have survived X out of 10 combats, they've interacted with X out of 10 innkeepers or whatever. And this isn't really something to tell the players about, I don't think, but when they hit those little milestones, you can be reminded to give them a little something. Something. Maybe that's some bonus XP for the 10th combat if you happen to run XP leveling. Or after they've spoken to a shopkeeper 10 times, they get a regulars discount. Little friendly progress rewards. I just think that would be very cute. So those are some more ideas from video games that you can hack into your tabletop RPG game. Like I said last time, video games have been cribbing from D&D for decades. So it's time that we start doing the same in reverse. We're gonna create the ultimate Ouroboros of game inspo, all right? Let's do it. Have you ever nicked a concept from a video game and chucked it into your homebrew? Let us know in the comments. Genuinely, no joke, these videos, these stuff to steal videos that I've done are some of my favorites to go through the comments on. People have so many good ideas that never would have occurred to me. It's such a repository of gaming wisdom. While you're checking out the comments, consider subscribing and liking the video and clicking on another video of mine because engagement is very important for the algorithm. As I said, my name is Dael Kingsmill. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, all over the internet. We have a Discord, we have a Patreon, and we have a merch store, which is the most YouTubery plug part of this whole YouTuber plug. But thank you for bearing with me. Apart from that, I do believe that's it. I'm done. Email this to your grandma, and I will see you some other time. I pinky promise. I do. Did you hear my elbow grunt? Ow! I'm tripping! Ah! That ending was a little bit chaotic.